Hey guys, welcome to Mad Scientist BBQ. I'm Jeremy Yoder, and today we're going to learn how to make some Polish sausages. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to learn how to make traditional Texas hot guts. To learn how to do this, we have to enlist somebody who's done a lot of it, and that's Brad from Chuds BBQ. He's going to teach me the basics of how to make traditional Texas barbecue-style sausages.
It's a lot of fun. It's something I've been wanting to get you into for a long time, particularly. Kind of like baking. There's a lot of science that goes into it, and I think if you really do a deep dive, you'll find it really interesting. Because there's a lot of proteins and, water contents, ratios, curing salts, whatever flavor you want in your sausage, or whether you want it cheesy, spicy, whatever.
I like spicy. When they put spicy chilies in there, I'm very happy. This is an opportunity for people to match whatever flavor profile they really like with how they're going to do their sausage, right?
Absolutely. And especially if you're cooking a lot of brisket and ribs all the time, you're going to have a lot of extra meat on your hands. And this is like the perfect way to get rid of it. You want these tougher cuts that have a lot of fat in them to really get that nice, juicy, plump sausage. And also, you got the Texas Trinity of brisket, ribs, and sausage for a reason. So.
Right. And if you take your brisket trimmings, say, and grind it up and make burgers, and you bring people over and you say, I ground those burgers myself, that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But if you say, I made those sausages myself, put them in the casings myself, smoked them myself, and that's what you're eating right now, that's really, really cool. And you don't get any wastage.
It's a great way to be sustainable. And like I was saying, it's a great way to differentiate yourself from all the other barbecue cooks as well.
Now you could spend a lot of money and travel a long distance to get down to Texas to learn how to do this, but Brad's gonna show you how to do it today for free.
Coming up!
What are the first steps that we have to do to get this ready?
Well, it all starts out with the meat, obviously.
Okay.
We'll get more into that in a little bit because I've already got all the meat cubed up and chilling in the freezer right now. And that's just because colder meat grinds up a lot better. It's not going to smear as much. The fat's not going to start rendering because there's a lot of friction going on in the meat grinder. While we're waiting for that to chill, we can go ahead and get all of our spices together.
Let's do it.
There are 5 different ratios that you really need to look for in sausage making. And one is obviously salt. So this is our kosher salt. We're going in with about 2% by weight of all the meat and all the fat mixed together.
Okay, so if you're doing 10 pounds of meat and fat, 2% of that weight is how much salt you need.
Yeah, exactly. So 2% kosher salt. Any salt will work because, again, we're going by weights here.
Yep.
Then we're going in with our pink curing salt, and that is 0.25% of the total weight. And that's because we're going to be cold smoking these sausages, which means they're going to be sub 140 degrees for an extended period of time, which is where, it's a danger zone where botulism can form. So that's just a safety precaution. It's also going to help with color and add that kind of charcuterie flavor. It's kind of one of those topics that's a little taboo, but we can get more into that later. Next up, we're going in with all of our flavors. So once you have your salt and your pink salt in there, everything else is pretty much personal preference. This is a pretty classic recipe. This is one I developed a while back. It's just kind of right down the middle, savory, a little bit of kick to it, nice and juicy, nice and plump. Just a really classic, like Texas, German, Czech style sausage.
So you could take this, and if you want to go spicier with cheese and whatnot, you could go that direction. If you want to tone down the spice and make it milder in general, you could do that too.
Exactly, yeah. If you wanted to add some jalapenos and cheddar, maybe cut down on the cayenne, you'd have a perfect jalapeno cheese sausage. If you wanted to get some, Mexican flavors, you could throw in some chili powder, some oregano, or some turmeric or something like that. Whatever you want to do. Now we're just going to go in with ground up mustard, granulated garlic, black pepper, some paprika, mostly just for color, really. Yep. Cayenne for a little bit of heat. That's all of our spices, and then we're gonna add our binder. This is high temp milk powder, which is designed specifically for sausage making. It's just gonna add more protein to the sausage, and it's really gonna help get that really plump, snappy bite. So when all the meat starts leaking out its juices and all the water we're gonna add as our liquid, it's just gonna help keep all that in and really help the bind.
It's gonna prevent it from shriveling, and it'll be plumped up like a ballpark frank.
Exactly, yeah. If you ever have a crumbly sausage or something that's like leaking out, that's because it doesn't have the proper bind on it.
Okay, I've had that happen before when I've tried sausage at places, but I never would have made that connection.
So the binder with milk powder, generally it's a 2 to 4% of the total weight. I'm going full 4% today because I really like that super snappy, like bounce it off the counter, really taut sausage. It has a perfect snap to it. So that's what we're going with today.
Okay, so we're gonna mix this up, and then what, are we gonna grind meat?
Yep, so we'll get this all mixed up, we'll add it to our meat, get it all ground up, case it up, throw it on the smoker.
Awesome. I wanna thank HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. I have not had a HelloFresh meal that I have not liked. They've all been great tasting, and they're so convenient because they show up to your door, and you just unpack it with all the ingredients that you need. This means you don't have to go to the grocery store and buy a whole bunch of something you only need a small amount of. You don't have to drive to the grocery store. You don't have to drive back. You don't have to find all of the ingredients. It all shows up together, which means it's so convenient. So what I do often is I'll come home, maybe it's late and I would normally go get some fast food, but instead I can cook healthy stuff at home with the HelloFresh meals. And it comes with this convenient card that shows you exactly how to do it. And if you want, it's fun to cook with your friends. We took a big one. Oops. So go to HelloFresh.com and use code Mad Scientist BBQ 16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. That's HelloFresh.com, code Mad Scientist BBQ 16 for 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Check them out. It makes cooking with my family a lot more convenient. We got 10 pounds of meat here, and we put it in the freezer so it gets hard, because while it's grinding, there's going to be friction. We don't want it to start to melt, right? The fat, that is.
Absolutely.
So how much of beef, how much of the pork, how much is lean, how much is fat?
You can do whatever ratio you want of beef to pork. You can do 100% beef, 100% pork, whatever you want to do. For great texture and flavor, a mixture of beef and pork is always a great thing to do, especially if that's what you have on hand. Today, we're going right down the middle. We got 4 pounds of beef. This is lean brisket that I trimmed the fat away from to try and control the fat content. Obviously, I didn't go too hard on it because as much as it is a science of ratios and all that, it's not the end of the world if you have plus or minus a few degrees of fat. This is some pork shoulder over here. So we got 4 pounds of pork butt, 4 pounds of lean brisket, and 2 pounds of brisket fat. This is that hard decal fat that we see on the underside of briskets. Generally, if in a perfect world, you'd have 100% lean meat and then 100% fat, so you can get the perfect 70-30 ratio. That's kind of the ideal sausage ratio for perfect juiciness. But because we got intramuscular fat in the brisket and the pork, I usually shoot for around an 80-20, and it usually probably works itself out to 70-30, because this fat has a little bit of meat on it, this meat has a little bit of fat in it, so that's why I went 4, 4, and 2.
Makes sense. All right, so let's grind it up.
Yes, sir.
Does it matter how you put it in?
Nope. We're using a pretty coarse die on here. The holes are pretty big for that coarse ground sausage.
Yep.
It comes with other plates that are a lot finer. But the finer the holes are, the smaller the die, the more emulsified your sausage is going to get. And we're kind of going for that coarse ground sausage, that Texas style.
Because we're not trying to get hot dog texture, we're trying to get sausage texture.
Exactly. Yeah, if you were to send this through 2 or 3 times, or send it through the small die once or twice, you're going to get a much tighter bind, which is desirable for certain sausages. But for what we're doing today, the coarse grind is really what we're after.
Got it. So I've seen how they do this in like a big time commercial operation, and their grinder actually has liquid nitrogen to keep everything cool.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's a little overkill.
So you're not using liquid nitrogen?
I mean, if I was doing 100 or 1,000 pounds or something, like again, there's obviously some friction going on in there.
Yep.
But because it's a 10-pound batch, we're going to get through it in a few minutes. It's not really necessary. And there's, like you were saying, there's a lot of industrial sausage making gear that will grind it, case it, and link it all for you, which is really cool to watch. But for small batches, for the backyard guy, this works out just fine. So at this point after the grind, you can see that this is still pretty loose. So to get a really good bind on it, we want to mix it up and kind of agitate it, really get that emulsion started. Traditionally, you could just go in with your hands and mix this up, but I've got this handy dandy meat mixer right here, which attaches to the meat grinder and just spins and mixes everything up. So I'm going to load all this meat into here, add our spices and our water, and then we're going to fire it up. Okay, and then in we go with all of our spices. So we're going to let this mix for just a few minutes, get all those spices evenly incorporated, and then we'll go in with our water. So we've talked about our fat ratio, our salt ratio, our pink salt ratio, our binder ratio, and now we're going to talk about our liquid component, which is a necessary step in any sausage. And you can do whatever you like. Ice is a great way to keep everything nice and cold in the mixing process. I usually just go in with some plain water, and we're really looking for 10% of the total weight. So for this 10-pound batch, I got 1 pound of water right here. And it's really going to help add some extra hydration to all the dry spices we added and really create that tacky emulsion that we're after. So I'm going to fire this back up, and in we go. so after about 5 minutes of mixing, you can see we've got a really nice tacky surface on this stuff. And you can always tell when it sticks to your hand like that, you know it's got a really nice bind on it. It's nice and tacky. All the spices are evenly incorporated. And we're ready to case it up.
I'm going to take all this meat, put it in the sausage stuffer here, but I'm going to be careful not to get any air bubbles, because if you get air bubbles in there, it'll show up in the sausage casing and then it will rupture the casing, which you do not want to happen. So as I put it in, I'm going to kind of be patting it down to make sure I don't have any big bubbles.
You can do this by hand, but especially when you're mixing ice cold meat, it is intense on your hands.
Yeah.
Like in most of my sausage making videos, especially in the wintertime when it's like 30 degrees out here, my hands turn like bright red. So I usually don't wear heat gloves because I've got pretty high tolerance for heat in my hands after the years. But the cold, it gets to me.
I knew that you had high tolerance for heat because remember when we did those tomahawks at Windy City Smokeout?
Yeah.
That bone was really hot.
Oh yeah. Woo, that's hot.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking. How hot do you think this is?
Probably around like 650, 700, something
think?
like that.
Yeah, it's hot.
The only downside of this mixer though is you can see the size of it. This is a 50-pound capacity mixer and it is very, very fun to clean. I'll tell you that much.
Cleaning is my favorite part of barbecue. You know, a lot of people don't know that, but you know, that's what makes it all worth it at the end.
Soot and grease,
Yeah.
raw meat.
The best is grease, especially when it gets into things that you really didn't want it to get into.
All right, what we got here is some natural hog casings. These are pig intestines. Yummy stuff.
Sounds better when you say casings.
Yeah, we'll call them casings from here on out. But you can get these all over the place. You can get them online. You can get them for your local butcher shop, sausagemaker.com, all those places. But they come packed in salt, so I've had these soaking in water. Now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of water in there just to open them up, kind of flush out any salt that's in there. Also, it lets you know if there's any holes that you have to watch out for.
And then as the sausage comes out, you'll twist it, make it a link. More comes out, twist it, make it a link, until you use the whole casing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Tie that off, snip the tip. And then the name of the game here is applying the right amount of pressure on the casing. Because if you just crank this willy-nilly, you're going to get this really rinky-dink sausage, and that's no bueno. And if you do that, you're also going to get a bunch of air pockets like that, which is something you don't necessarily want. You want to hold the casing right at the end and increase the pressure so it really fills up. But if you fill it up too much like this,
It'll pop?
It'll pop, yeah, like you see it expanding. So I'm just putting a little back pressure on there to make sure it gets as plump as it can be without popping, which is something that really just takes time and feel. And we'll link them up, and we've got ourselves some beautiful little sausage links right here.
Like a half turn? Or I'll just do it and you say it's good.
Perfect. Take this, twist it up, slide it back on.
And then we got a new sausage.
Yep. And there's a lot of different techniques you can do. Like a lot of people will make one big long rope and then go through and twist them up. I'm a fan of doing the link by link here just because you can see just how there's no air pockets in this one.
Right.
As opposed to that first one where I initially just shot it out, like right here. Big old air pockets all throughout. So you can go through at the end and just prick them, get a sausage pricker or like your thermopen or something. But you know,
They're gonna have a wrinkled casing at the end.
It might, yeah, you could leak out some sauce or some fat or some juices from that, but especially if you're just doing a 10-pound batch, like it's really not going to take all that much time to case these up by hand. All right, let me do one, 2, 3, 4. We'll do 2 more, and then we'll have you hop in here. And again, you can see there's a natural curvature to the casing. That's another thing you kind of want to keep in mind, because anytime it's going the opposite direction, like if you try and do this way, it's a lot more likely to snap. So
Let's see.
and you can make these as big or as small as you like, you know what I mean? You could do like a big coil if that's your style. So there we go, some beautiful links. These are pretty big, honestly. It's probably like a, I don't know, full pound link right there, but you can make them little 6 inches, one big coil, one big rope. And that's kind of the fun part about sausage, depending on what you're making or what you're doing. Pretty much do whatever you want. So,
Sweet.
ready to hop in? Do you want me to crank it for you?
No, I gotta try one on my own. Probably not quite enough pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. It's definitely, like, you can tell just by the hotness that it's a little bit understuffed. But
Yeah.
if you twist it and link it up, it'll shrink in the ends and it'll plump it all up for you.
Okay, so kind of twist.
Yeah, try grabbing the knot.
I think maybe the knot came out. Maybe I cut too much.
That's fine.
Like this?
There you go.
Keep going.
Yep. Just kind of hold right here.
Okay.
Just let that pressure build.
Okay. I think that's probably about good, right?
Mm-hmm. Looks good. One thing to keep note of is which direction you're spinning these so you don't untwist the other one.
I may have untwisted that one.
It's all good.
So this one, definitely different texture than this one.
Right, yeah. I mean, you can just kind of poke them, poke them, poke them.
Here we go. Okay. I think I'm untwisting it.
It's definitely one of those things that takes a good amount of practice.
Ah.
Ready?
So wise, yep. Okay.
Looking good. You haven't popped one yet.
I'll take that as a win.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate that. Vote of confidence. Okay. Yeah, it's a little long. This one probably is a full pound. I think that was not that bad.
Yeah, it looks great.
All right. Does it change, or you can spin it the same way every time?
You can either spin every other link the same way, or yeah, opposite each time.
Okay. Now I gotta go this way. And one sausage. I feel like someday I'll master it.
Well, I mean, you can see like noticeable improvement on every link. We're getting down to the bottom here. Yeah, I'm a big fan of cheesy sausages too. I got a bunch of sausage cheese, like high temp cheese.
Yeah. The last ones are like semi-respectable.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, you can always go back through and re-twist them. All right, this is probably going to be the last little tiny link. Oh, there it is. On the last one. It happens. But, you know, just throw it back in, try again, or save it for a little sausage burger. So we're on the old full-size Chud box here. This is a direct heat cooker that I build, typically used for whole hogs and pork steaks and whatnot, but today we're gonna use it to cold smoke some sausage. Got a little bit of charcoal in here, just get that fired up, just enough.
With this?
Absolutely.
Exactly the same. Then we can attribute whatever the smoke flavor difference is to the difference in wood, rather than, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if it's way too smoky, then it's like, all right.
So what we did with the sausages is we put them on this Chud box, and we put in a small layer of coals, and then put a heavy piece of wood on top because we want thick smoke, because we're trying to get color on the outside of the casings. We're trying to dry out those casings, but we don't want to get it so hot that we start to render the fat down. So we're trying to keep it at 150 max, because this is about putting in smoke flavor and preparing those for the final cook. Now I see you have some ice and water. What's the plan with that?
So at this point, to stop the cooking process, clean these up a little bit, and also shock the casings, which is really going to help tighten everything up and just make sure everything is nice and snappy. We're going to shock these in an ice bath. This is also going to kind of help bloom them, which is again going to help with the color.
Yeah, so looks good.
So yeah, you can see right here we got some really nice redness on there. Ooh, nice and red, looking real good. So, into the ice bath they go, and then we'll be ready to either pop them in a vac seal, stick them in the freezer, save them for whenever you want, or we can throw them on the pit, which we're gonna do right now.
Let's do it.
Get these fully cooked, and we'll see how they came out.
Yeah, I'm excited. By the way, these were on for about 4 hours, and we were using some Fogo charcoal and post oak wood. Oh my goodness. All right, we shocked the sausages, and we got the pit going, so let's cook them.
That is one of the best first sausage attempts.
That's really impressive. Do that. Can you do that again? Wow.
Yeah, sausage flips, you know. That's how I get all the ladies.
We're just gonna leave that alone. We're gonna put these on the pit. Let's go.
Together. Oh, feels so right. We're rocking these about 275 just for, 30, 45 minutes because they're smoked. They're already, they're cured. They're ready to go. We're just trying to cook them all the way through until they are nice and plump.
They smell great.
And I usually just toss them on wherever I want. Sometimes I go vertical as long as you get some smoke on them. But at this point, they're already smoked. Like I said, we're just going for heat. Shouldn't take long.
Do you try to get any level of separation on them, or does it not matter because we're just trying to get them cooked through?
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, full disclosure, we were trying to do too many things at once, and we needed a pit to do the, super low temperature cold smoke. Brad was like, I got a Chud box out there. We can make it work. So we go out there, and it actually worked great.
It was the easiest cold smoke of my life, especially on like a pit like this where I usually do it. Like the grates are so greasy and been used, like the casings get all dirty. You gotta clean them off. But yeah, because it was brand new, like the grates were nice and shiny, and you know it was perfect because the fire was nice and far away too. But
Yeah, sometimes you just stumble into greatness, and I think you just did.
Yep.
Moment of truth. We have our little mountain of sausages here. So, can you evaluate the sausages?
Absolutely. These sausages are looking real nice. We got some beautiful color on there. They are like bouncing. That's how plump and firm they are. We brought these up until they were nice and toasty. They didn't pop, which is great. They feel like a nice snappy casing. And the real test of a sausage is to just take it and take a big old bite out of it to hear how snappy that casing is.
I can't tell if you're telling me the truth or if you're just trolling me right now.
No, that's the thing. That's the way to tell. But we'll do it together.
All right. It's going to be hot. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
That's juicy.
We're like 12 O's. Mm-hmm. That kind of juicy. This is great.
When it sounds like you're biting into a carrot. That's how you know it's a plump, snappy little sausage leg.
Man, that's wonderful. Each bite, when you're biting on the casing, goes snap, snap, snap.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's tasty. You got a kind of like a kielbasa vibe going on. Nice tight bind on there. Nice and smoky.
Yeah,
And you
great.
you saw how we smoked these. Like it was some pretty dense smoke, but it's not over smoked. You know what I mean? It's one of the times where dirty smoke is your friend.
Look how juicy these are, man.
Yeah, man. Oh my goodness.
That's really good.
The waterfall. That's why, I mean, that's why I wanted you to come here. It's because there's no convincing people that anything I do is good because I'm always alone.
Right.
So that's why it's
like,
nice.
sure, a legend in his own mind. Dude, this is great.
Nice and snappy too.
Well, my wife says it's great. My wife says I'm a great cook.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's the best sausage I've ever had.
And he made it.
I participated.
Ooh. Juicy, snappy bite.
Yeah, and it goes snap.
I
Here,
don't understand how what you guys did today made this.
take a bite where you actually bite through the casing.
It's
I
like
mean-
taking a drink.
Yeah, it's
So much
it's
juice.
incredibly juicy.
Man,
Which is great. I mean, like you just
Dude.
said, like you saw what went into it. It's all basic stuff.
That's seriously the best sausage I've ever had.
Awesome. Are we gonna see any more sausages on the old Mad Scientist channel
I'm
anytime
gonna have to,
soon?
man. This is so good.
Bust out that mustard real quick.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Tell me when to stop.
It's good.
You want some?
Oh,
Yeah.
look at that though. Look at that. Look at.
Yeah, this mustard is from my French dip episode. This is like the one they make in LA at Philippe's.
That's a good balance.
Nice.
Yeah. This is
good.
regular ballpark. Where would it be
I
like
want some of this one.
to do just like a bratwurst?
Yeah, dude, this in a bun with some mustard.
That's delicious, man. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, thank you so much.
I'm telling you, man,
So
like
cool.
it's a whole world to dive into when it comes to sausage making. If you're the kind of guy that has a bunch of meat scraps on hand all the time, it's almost rude not to make it yourself. You know?
Yeah.
Although the dish pile is looking at me right now.
Yeah. The smoke, the snap, the texture, the juiciness, the flavor. Like all the elements are there, man. I am on a diet and I want to eat like 6 more of these.
You got to finish this one at least.
All right, well, you insist.
But it's also kind of what I love about barbecue in general, right? Like a smoker is just made out of an old piece of garbage, like an old propane tank. And it's like, this is just, again, scraps that a lot of people throw into the trash that has turned into something that is just delicious.
And that is so good. I thought it was going to be mild in flavor. I thought it was going to be like, oh, yeah, this is the sausage. Yay, cool, we smoked. But we did it.
Yeah.
But instead it's, no, this is awesome. Can you believe we did this?
Yeah.
It's great.
That little kiss of mesquite on there might be helping us out too.
Yeah, exactly. Dude, look at the juice. Look at that, man. It's just... All right, I'm doing this at home. Guaranteed. Okay, big thank you to Brad. Thank you so much, man. If you guys learned half as much as I did about sausage making today, then you're going to be pumped to go out and try that on your own. I wish you guys could have tasted these to see how amazing they are. Even though they're simple, it's not super complicated. When it's done well, it's just something special. So do you have any advice for the at-home pitmaster who's trying to get into making some sausage?
Absolutely. Like I said, this is a very simple recipe. You saw everything that went into it. It's all pretty much household items that we have in our pantry already. And you don't have to go full bore with the automatic mixer and the casings. Like, this is a great way to get into making breakfast sausage or make these in patty form. To just try out the recipe for yourself. You know, go buy some ground pork and ground beef, mix them together that way. If you are a person that cooks a lot of barbecue and you have all this trim on hand anyway, instead of throwing it in the trash, make something special. Highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
So, if you guys enjoyed the video, you can hit the like button down below and you can subscribe to the channel. And please do not forget to subscribe to Brad's channel, Chuds BBQ. You can also follow him on Instagram. Both of those I highly, highly, highly recommend. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Mad Scientist BBQ. I'll see you guys next time. Portrait over here. It's sausage. Sausage. I bet you that dog would like one bite.
100%. Man, that was a big bite I just took.
Seen a prank phone call?
No.
Oh, dude. Okay.
This is important.
Anyway, he was. Okay, let's get this film done.
Oh, now you're telling me?
Yeah, come on.
Quit lollygagging over here.
Been waiting forever.
Jeez, that'd be helpful. We're straight focus over here.
Like a laser. It's inappropriate.
Look at all the colors, though. Very nice.
A lot of colors.
Job. 4 hours into our brisket cook. Only 3 times longer to go. Hi. How you doing?
How you doing?
They always say you don't want to see how the sausage gets made.
It's a phrase for a reason.
Sometimes I take this and I chuck it and see if I can stick it to the fence.
Yeah? And your dog goes and takes care of it afterward, or what? Boom.
Report needs your support. And his name is John C.
That's surprisingly long.
Thank you. So
This is never gonna end. Oh my goodness. Why don't you use your humongous like Crocodile Dundee knife?
Because this is a personal vendetta of mine.
Nice pieces of wood.
It'll work.
Put it in the ice water.
Stick it in my ice water bath.
To the bat cave.
Yeah. Yeah. Sausage Mountain.
Hey, Dad. Dad, did you get your Polish sausage?